All right, we're going to talk picking and replenishment in section 4. This is a pretty quick chapter, but there's a lot of things in here that are very important to helping you understand how to set up the warehouse and how to make sure that your labor utilization is as minimal as it can possibly be. So you know how the warehouse flow works from previous chapters, but I just want you to think through. You've got stuff on the shelves there, it's already packed up and it's in pallets, and you need to pull and start filling orders. So you want it, this is a very complex process. So we want to be as efficient as possible. Picking is the thing that uses the most resource of anything in the warehouse as far as labor. So it's the most labor intensive thing, as I just said. It's very fundamental to customer service in that if you pick incorrectly, your person at the end, the customer, is going to get the wrong quantity, the wrong quality, or the wrong item. And so if you look at this number here, 65% of the warehouse operation expense is attributed to picking. So that is a huge, huge number. The other thing that you need to think about is if you have a several 100,000 square foot warehouse and you're zigzagging all over it and retracing your steps and you're not efficient, then you're wasting time. And it seems like that's not really a big number. But if you think about you have 10 forklift drivers in a 400,000 or 500,000 square foot warehouse, you could be over resourced by even one whole full-time person if you're not efficient. So think about if you were picking more at a macro level, like in the city of Houston, and you had people picking up something in Pasadena, and then you had somebody going to that same person going to the Woodlands, and then going back to Sugarland, and then going to the West Side. Like, you want to be efficient. In the same way when we talked about the kind of the chocolate chip cookie example, you don't want to stand at the counter and go to the pantry and get the flour and bring it back, and then go back to the pantry and get the chocolate chips and bring it back. Go back to the pantry and get the baking powder and bring it back. You want to go get everything that's in the same place and bring it back one time, because that back and forth is muta, it's waste. And so we want to make sure that we're being as efficient as we possibly can. All right, so that thing on the top is a full pallet, and then when they show you like a tier of boxes, that's those 4 boxes that are set up, and you can see they're offset so that they're more stable. And then each one of those cartons, and then inside of a carton could be like a sleeve, if you think about like how crackers come or something like that. And then inside of that would be the one thing that you're trying to pick. Depending on how often you pick at that unit level versus how often you pick at the carton level, that kind of a thing, you may stock it already broken down into individual units, or you may leave it like this where you can pull a pallet or a box or a tier at a time. Think about if you were selling something like wine, where a case of wine has 12 bottles in it. If you're going to only sell one bottle to someone, you may charge an extra fee to say, I'm breaking up a completed case. So now the labor of I have to open the box, I have to take that one bottle of wine out, and that box now needs to be noted that it's only 11, so I don't ship it to somebody who's ordered a full case. So people do price things sometimes if the item is generally sold in a large amount and you want to break it down. Sometimes people do charge an extra fee to break it down. Another thing that I want you to think about is product affinity. So the word affinity means like. And so it's where affection comes from, if you can kind of remember that same word. So if you think about something, you're going to always order 1/4 inch nuts and 1/4 inch bolts, right? Together. There's no reason to order the nut if you don't order the bolt. However, we don't want to store the 1/4 inch bolts and the 1/2 inch bolts next to each other because it's too easy to make a mistake and pick the wrong one. So what we call affinity stocking says almost every time that someone orders product A, they also order product B. So what we want to do is stock those close to each other because it stops that back and forth like we were talking about. We don't want to make several trips to the pantry for flour and for baking powder and for chocolate chips. We almost always are going to use the flour and the baking powder in the same recipe. So let's store those close to each other. Let's don't put the baking powder in the garage and the flour in the pantry, right? Let's put them together. So same thing here. So product affinity says I almost always order this with that. Let's store them next to each other. But it's easy, especially for a robot or a person, it's easy to make a mistake if you have something that's similar next to each other. So if we have 1/4 inch bolts, let's store them with the 1/4 inch nuts. If we have 1/2 inch bolts, let's store those in the 1/2 inch nuts on a whole nother aisle. Let's don't put them anywhere near here because it makes it easier to have an accurate pick. Okay, you're going to do some exercises about picking, but all these ways are ways that you're going to, different ways that you can pick. Pick by order says, give me the entire order, and I'm one person, I'm going to go get every single thing that's on the order throughout the warehouse. Pick by label says I'm going to get a long string of labels. It's going to have maybe some barcodes on it and things like that, and every single thing that I pick. So I'm going to pull down this pen. I need to do it. I'm going to slap a label on it, and I know that that's picked now. When all the labels are done, I know my order's finished. So that's another one. Cluster picking says I have several orders and I'm going to go get all of them at the same time and I'm going to sort them out as I go. So I'm going to take like a cart and I'm going to say this goes in order 1, this goes in order 2, this goes in order 3. You have to be careful and then you have to make sure as you pick that something has been done and put in the right order. Pick by batch basically says a lot of smaller orders are going to be done, but we have a lot of the same things. So I have a huge order for sunglasses today. I'm going to go to the sunglass section and I'm going to get all the sunglasses I need and get all the orders, and then we'll batch those. But I'm only going to do that. Pick by zone is how, if you think about in the grocery store, I'm going to go get all the frozen food. You go get all the meat. She's going to go get all the dairy. And then we're going to get together at the front. And then we're going to sort the order together. Or there's going to be some sort of conveyor system that is going to let me funnel all those orders together so that all the dairy, all the meat, all the produce all comes together for order 1, order 2, order 3. And then pick by wave is not used very much in most industries anymore, but pick by wave just says we're going to do things. I need everything that I'm going to need between now and 3 o'clock. So let's go get all that. You're going to do some exercises and you're going to watch some really cool videos that show you this technology in action this week. So our batch of cookie example, if you look at this and you say, I'm going to make all of these cookies, you may notice some things that are common. So a cluster pick of this would say all of these things in the top 5 ingredients of these cookies are all the same. So let's go get all of these. That would be an example of a batch pick or a cluster pick. So some things that are different, the oats are in the oatmeal cookies and there's chocolate chips in the chocolate chip cookies. So, if we were going to send somebody to go get all the common ingredients and bring them all together, this would be a batch pick. Then we would send somebody to get the rest of the baking powder, the sugar, the baking soda, and then the water. If we wanted to do a zone pick, most of the stuff here is going to be kept in one of 2 places, either the pantry or the refrigerator. So eggs and butter are going to be in the refrigerator. Let's send somebody to the refrigerator to get that stuff. Let's send somebody else to go get the sugar out of the canister on the counter. So that kind of a thing. So order picking to get one order. So you can see this lady on the left-hand side. She has a thing in her hand, and so she's going and she's got a route. So you can see on the right-hand side, the order's released right there on the bottom left. And then she's going to go and follow those arrows. So she only goes through the warehouse one time. She's going to get everything she needs. It's an individual order. They call this a U path. And the reason why is you can see that it goes like an upside down, right side up, upside down U. Okay, pick by label. We talked about it. That person has a handful of labels in his hand. And as soon as everything that he has been labeled, he knows that the order is complete. Okay, cluster picking is on your exam. So I want you to think about Instacart or Shipt or something like that. They're taking one person has a giant cart. They might be filling 3 or 4 orders at one time, and they're going through the grocery store one time, and they're getting everything they need for all 3 orders. So they're seeing 5 apples, order 1, 3 apples, order 2, 5 apples, order 3. Then they're going to the dairy section. I need eggs for this order, but I don't need it for any other orders. And they're continuing through. So this is on your test. A lot of people tend to miss this and think that it's batch picking, and it's not. It's cluster picking because they're working on several orders in one pass of every aisle. All right, this is going to be a video that I want you to watch on cluster picking utilizing technology. And this is an explanation of batch picking. So pick to zero means you should do this until all the lines on the order form that you have been exhausted to zero. So you're looking through something and you're saying, once this is picked, you zero it out. Once this is picked, you zero it out. Once this is picked, you zero it out. And so it is continuing to give you the next thing that needs to be picked until everything has been done. This is what's called a put wall. So you can see there's somebody on each side of it. So as he puts that thing that's in his left hand into that center cube, he presses the white button. On the other side, when everything that is in that square is there, the number of items that need to be there, it will turn a light on her side, a color. She knows that it's ready to pick, and then she can package it from the other side. So he's scanning with that scanner at that's kind of right in front of his hand, and putting it in the right place and hitting the button. And as soon as there's enough, all the items are complete in that square, it will light on her side and she'll know that it's ready to be packaged. Zone picking is sometimes called pick and pass. So this is pick it, get it out of the zone. So the picker number 1 is only picking things that they can get to in zone 1. And as they get them, they're putting them onto a conveyor belt. And then the conveyor belt is managing getting everything to the end and sorting it to the right place. This is very much how things get done at Amazon. You're going to look at goods to person this week, and you're going to look at person to goods. So just like it sounds, goods to person means that the person stays still and everything comes to them. Person to goods is the opposite of that. So that means that the person is going to go to them. You're going to watch this video from iHerb. It's going to help you understand exactly how this goes. But don't make you watch it now, but um, person to goods means that the person or the forklift or the robot is actually traveling to where the information or I'm sorry, not the information, the items are stocked. All right, so this is on your exam as well, Blue Star. So what exam affects picking performance? I gave you all these things, and I'm going to ask you to give me a couple and explain why. So I'm going to start at the top, kind of there at 12 o'clock. Replenishing processes means if I go to my pantry to get chocolate chips and somebody has not gone to the grocery store and bought more chocolate chips and we're out, I'm stopped. I can't fill that order. I can't do anything. There's nothing there. The processes that tell somebody 2 days ago, hey, we're out of chocolate chips, you need to go to the store, you need to put this on the list, what the software is that's giving me that list, what the availability of what we have is, how far I either have to walk or drive my forklift, if it's well lit and if it's cool or warm enough that people can function in the environment where they're not uncomfortable, how you train the picker, what you're picking. If you're trying to pick screws 10 at a time and you're on a forklift and you have to get off the forklift every single time you have to do that, that's not efficient. But if you're trying to pick couches, obviously you need a forklift with a special attachment. If you're trying to pick big giant rolls of carpeting, something like that. So that handling equipment is very important. We want to make sure that we have the right labeling so that we can see the shelf, what it is, and how many are in a box or a container or a pallet. We want to know that we have the right packaging so that we don't want to have something in a box of 1,000 if I need 10. If we always pick 10, then we want them already on the shelf in packs of 10, much easier. Think about if you had to pick 13 cans of Coke. You would have to get a 12 pack and then you'd have to get one separate can of Coke. That would be a pain. So you want to make sure that things are packed and packaged in the way that you need to pull them. Pick location is appropriate to the size and the dynamics. So if I'm picking couches, I need to make sure that I have them in a location where there's enough swing and enough space to move the forklift and to get them, and that I'm not stocking the couches right next to the breakable vases, because that would be crazy that you could run the risk of hitting one of those and breaking it. The technology, so are you using something that's telling you in your ear? Are you using a thing of labels? Are you using something on an iPad? Are you using a scanner? What is your pick technology? And then your order release strategy says, how are we going to tell the people who are picking what they need to go get? Are we going to give them one giant order at a time? Are we going to give them 15 orders? Like, how are we going to do it? Where the products are and how they're identified, and then that location identification so everybody knows how to find A1C07 or whatever it may be. Okay, this is on your test as well. They call these things on the right the 10 commandments of picking. And this is the kind of, I mean, it's silly to call it that, but that's what they call it. And so the biggest problem, you can see that orange section on the pie chart there, is that the item's not there. The second one is that you put something in there, but it was not the right thing. The third thing is that you didn't send the right amount. And the fourth thing is you wrote down that you put 5 on there, or you keyed in that you put 5 in there, but there were really only 3. So these are very important. What I asked you to come up with is to give me some ways you can mitigate picking errors. So designing for flexibility is saying, today we're handling 10,000 orders a day. A year from now, we might be handling 15,000 orders a day. So let's not make the warehouse such that it cannot support that growth. Keep pickers picking. Most people will put this as one of the answers on their test because it's easy to remember, but keep pickers picking basically means a picker should not be waiting. They shouldn't be trying to pack something or label it or do anything. They should just pick. You want them to travel, or whether it's a robot or a human, you want them to travel as minimally as possible. You want them to touch things as few times as possible. And you shouldn't have to double check everything. If you have good pickers that have been well trained and you have good technology, you should not have to double check an order before it goes out. You never want to let a picker get to that quote unquote to that pantry and say, hey, we're out of chocolate chips. Measure, measure, measure. So we always say a gardener, if you're trying to lose weight, you don't measure how fast your hair grows, which is kind of a silly thing. But you can measure something and it may have nothing to do with the productivity that you're getting or not getting. And so you want to make sure you're measuring the right things. We want to pick logically, number 7, and slot intelligently. Slotting is putting things that are going to ship often as close to the picker as possible. So in the middle of the summer in Houston, we want bathing suits and sunscreen and sunglasses and pool floats as close to the front of the warehouse as possible, because we don't want to have to go all the way to the back of the warehouse and all the way back up to the front every time we're picking those things, because we're going to ship a jillion of those in the summertime. So what we can put in the back is the winter coats and the ice scrapers and all the things that we're probably not going to sell very many of. We can put those in the way back of the warehouse, because we're probably not going to need them very much, and it allows you to. Most really good technology for a warehouse allows that slotting to happen dynamically, where a human does not have to move something. The shelves move themselves. We want to pick accurately, get it right the first time. We want to continue to try to do continuous improvement. We want to make sure we're trying to find the best way to do it all the time. So I'm going to ask you for 3 or 4 of these on the test. We want to replenish as much as we need to make sure that every shift is always covered. So nobody is going to arrive at a location and not have the location have the parts in it that they need to pull for the order. And then this is on your test as well. I will give you the definition on the right. You will give me the name of the replenishment technology on the left. So demand-based says as it's needed. So I'm going to restock whenever I need it. So think about in your own pantry. Let's say that you eat 10 Oreos every week. There's 40 Oreos in a bag. You don't have to buy Oreos every week, but you need to keep an eye on it. When it gets down under 10, 15 Oreos, you're going to put that on your list and you're going to buy them. So you're just going to do it demand based. As it's needed, you're going to buy more. Routine says, I'm going to wait until it gets to a certain level or a certain time of the day or some threshold, and then I'm going to redo it, but it's going to be on a schedule. Top off means I don't have anything else to do right now, so I'm going to go restock. So think about like in a medical office. So there's a patient canceled. I'm going to go and put new cotton balls and new tongue depressors and Band-Aids and all that in the treatment rooms, because it's something that I can do to, be efficient with my time. So I'm going to give you the definition on the right. I'm going to have you tell me demand-based, routine, or top off on the left. So that's what will be on your exam.